As Rangers fans, we know that a goaltender is the backbone of a hockey team. At Abundant Wealth Management, we are your financial backbone, offering financial planning, wealth management, tax planning, and estate planning services. To schedule your free consultation, head to www.abundant-wealth.com. That's www.abundant-wealth.com. Abundant Wealth Management. Live, plan, triumph.
You're listening to Rangers Radio, your home for end-to-end coverage of the New York Rangers. With your hosts, Brendan Azoff, Zach Domino, and Steve Pappas. Blue Shirts fans, the puck drops now.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Rangers Radio. As we enter the final week of the season, the Rangers are 1 point away from officially being eliminated from playoff contention. Zook is so pissed off that he actually decided not to be here on the episode today, but he'll be here next week for the finale. So, Steven, normally we try to start with something positive. We try to be uplifting in the beginning, but I think we're all too demoralized to do that. We were talking about some draft stuff off air, which we're going to get into in a little bit after we talk about the absolute debacle that's been the last few games and this Rangers season. So before we dive into everything, how's everything going, my man?
Listen, I don't blame Zook for not showing up today. I mean, who wants to talk about this team? Who cares about this team? Like, who wants to spend their time and sit for 3 hours and watch this team play and watch them either score no goals or give up 8? And watch them not care, miss wide on penalty shots, give up shorthanded goal after shorthanded goal after shorthanded goal while not scoring on the power play. Tank. I don't know if tank's the right word, but just absolutely free fall in the standings to now could be looking at a top 10 pick this year that you may or may not have. I don't blame him for not showing up because the team doesn't show up. So who cares?
It's really just sad. And, I spoke to my friend Stefan Rosner today. A lot of you that are watching know him. He covers the Islanders, and he's around the game all the time. And he never likes to say that a team doesn't show effort. He keeps saying that to me. And he called me and he was like, man, it's borderline that though right now. And it's so lackadaisical because we all look up and down the roster and we know the skills there. And you could say that players are regressing. Sure, they have regressed this year. But if you look at the names on this roster, there is no reason that they should be in this position. All they have to do is give some kind of effort every single night, put some power play goals in, and they're ahead of Montreal. But everything has kind of fallen out from the bottom. And it all stems from, one, the GM early in the season doing the ridiculous crap that he did. 2, the coach has kind of given up after November. And 3, because of that, the players have just said, screw it. And you could see last night, right? They get out to the early lead, score a shorthanded goal. They take a 1-0 lead into the locker room. They give up 2 quick goals and answer it late in the period with Artemi Panarin. But even after that answer, you could just kind of tell they were deflated. And then third period rolls around. You take another lead. You score 2 quick goals, take another lead, and you give 1 right back, and it's just gone. There's no fight. And when you look 12 months ago, right, at what they were doing last year, if they were down 2-3 goals in the third, I was watching that game thinking they're still going to win this. There was that type of feeling around that group. And this year they go down 1-0 and I'm like, it's over. And that's such a 180 from a 12-month period, season to season, with the majority of the roster being the same. And the players that aren't on the team are the ones that rightfully so had to go. But either we all misinterpreted how much their voice meant in the locker room, or we just really misinterpreted how much this team doesn't want it.
I've had to answer the question a lot from friends of mine, from just people in general that don't necessarily watch the Rangers as intently as some of us do. And the question is always, what the hell happened? And I thought I'd have an answer, and I really just don't. Like, it's so hard to sit here and give one specific answer as to what went wrong in this season. You can tell by the title of this episode, it's a eulogy. This is a eulogy of the season. If they lose tonight, it's over. I mean, it's over anyway. Like, they're not making the playoffs. No. They're going to go down in history in the National Hockey League as one of a few teams to win the President's Trophy and then miss the playoffs the next year. Oddly enough, joining themselves in 1992, correct?
Yep.
So I think they'd be the fourth or fifth team, and they own two of those. This franchise owns two of those spots. So
Well, at least they could win something.
That just shows. And of course, we got the positive fans right now that are, putting that correlation, and they did that and then won the cup the next year or something like that, 2 years down the line. So let's all temper expectations for what's going to happen in the future. But I go back to my point that, I mean, I'm asked that question. I ask the question to people that know more than I do, and I feel like I keep getting the same answer of, you can't pin it on one person, but you can pin it on everybody. From the GM who just is stuck in his own way, won't deviate from his path. Same goes with the head coach, won't deviate from his own path. And I brought it up last week, and I know you weren't here, but it's funny when we look back at like Gerard Gallant, and I think, at least for me, some of the gripe was like every night you never know what lineup was going to come out there. And that was a team that was playing well. And there was always turnover in the lines. There were always turnover in the D pairs. Nobody ever got, continuity with playing with each other. And now you look at Peter Laviolette, and it's a complete 180. There's never a switch in the lines. There's never a switch. And when I mean a switch in the lines, I mean the top six. The bottom six seems to be a rotating group of guys that probably should be in the lineup because they care and keep getting bumped out of the lineup. We'll get into Gabe Perreault later on. We have plenty of time to talk about that. But it's the guys that need to be held accountable that aren't being held accountable and were never held accountable for the entire season. And, I've said a lot of my anger. I've used a lot of my anger throughout this season. This is going to be a little bit more of a reflective me of what this season was, and nothing short of a disaster. The players, no effort. I mean, Chris Chelios said it last night. It looks like they're playing, with no effort. And, we've been seeing it the whole season. It's funny. We've been probably, harping on the effort point since November. And just now you see the national media starting to talk about this team, not playing up to its potential and really just not caring when they get out on the ice. They gave up 8 goals in 40 minutes of play last night. It was 1-0. Yeah, they were up 1-0 after 1, and they lost the game 8-5. I mean, bad, man. I get to be at a loss for words. I really am, but we are here to say words, so I can't really say that. Really keep saying that, but it's gonna be an interesting offseason. I'd be very shocked if Peter Laviolette stays. I'm sure. I mean, that's now going around that it's very well and clear that this is his last season. Saw that Chris Drury might be hanging around, which, to be able to hire your fourth coach as a general manager is absolutely ludicrous and not lose your job.
That should never happen.
But I hate that I'm going to say this, but I very much hope that James Dolan gets in their ear, because he's not a guy that likes losing. He's not a guy that tolerates losing. And you're going to see in the next 2 years, the salary cap explode. And the rich are going to be, it's not going to be like baseball where, now the Mets, the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Red Sox go out and get every single key free agent. But there is going to be a disparity between teams with money, which the Rangers have, and teams without money. And it's a matter of obviously getting the right players, but having an owner that is willing to spend. And, you've seen that James Dolan is willing to spend. So we'll see what happens, but it's not going to be with Peter Laviolette behind the bench. We speculated last week just on connection and no sources or anything like that. Jay Pandolfo seems like the guy. Jay Pandolfo, he's got a connection with Chris Drury. They played together at Boston University. Pandolfo is a name that the Rangers looked at before he even coached a game in the NCAA. Now it seems like the perfect time. Hockey's a boys' club. If Jay Pandolfo is the guy, then we'll see, because the college realm didn't work the first time, especially going through BU with David Quinn. But I will always throw out David Carl's name, and I know I've kind of gone on a tangent here, and I'll throw it back to you. And I don't want to be Zook. No offense. Take up the whole time.
But listen, if you're hiring a new coach and don't make a call to David Carl, I think that's complete malpractice. So he should be your first name. And I don't even have to say this to Zook because he already knows it, but I'm so sick and tired of the retread. And I know people are talking about Tortorella. And do I think that Tortorella would be the type of coach that would light a fire under this team and kind of not take their shit? A little bit more than Laviolette for sure, but I don't think that's the right approach. It's going back to another recycled guy. But to piggyback onto your point from before, it's actually only been 3 times in NHL history that a President's Trophy winning team in one year has missed the playoffs the next. The Rangers are about to be the first and the fourth to do it.
Oh, God.
Now, if you look at what happened the last time, they won the President's Trophy in 91-92, missed the playoffs in 92-93, and won the President's Trophy and won the Cup in 93-94. So to throw it back to you, how many days have to go by when the season ends before we start hearing more parallels to 1994, which is all Rangers fans really have to grasp onto because it's the only cup that we've seen since 1940.
I have a text in my friends group chat with the Rangers today. The last text that was sent
it's already happened.
Was that exact thing. I mean,
there you go.
I'm not buying into that.
I don't buy anything until I see it at this point. This team
There's no
is an
leader on the team.
joke.
At least that team had Messier and Lee.
Yeah, but you kind of brought that point up, though, because the salary cap's going up. So we all know that this is not going to be a rebuild. As much as some people might want it to be a full rebuild, it's going to be a retool. And by that, I mean is that they're not going to make moves. And yes, I don't think Chris Kreider's coming back next year. I do think they're going to look at Mika Zibanejad and ask him to waive his no movement clause. I think that big drastic changes like that are going to happen. And I think that no matter who's on contract on defense besides Adam Fox, in my mind, they should be dealt right now. You might want to keep Braden Schneider for a third pair right D. You might want to look at Keandre Miller. I don't know at this point, but Carson Soucy cannot be on this team next year. Urho Vakanainen, no need to be on this team next year. We're kind of stuck with Will Borgen because I can't see anybody taking that contract or Chris Drury trading him if he's still the GM. But they're going to make drastic moves, but they're also going to bring in guys that are ready to play and win now. This is not going to be something like the letter that we saw because of the uptick in the salary cap, because Dolan's itching with the Knicks the way they're going to have both teams at the Garden winning hockey games. But to me, you can't have Drury making these decisions anymore. He's had his chance. You mentioned this would be his 4th head coaching hire that he gets to make. It's just done. And it can't be him making these decisions. I just don't understand what more you have to see from him to give him another chance at putting together a hockey club. He has not been able to do it, and he's been ruthless, man. You look at this past offseason, the things that he did with Barclay Goodrow, the memo that he put out, and he is a ruthless GM. I'll give him that, right? He has no qualms about getting rid of players. But then the problem is the people that he brings back are just as bad, if not worse. I mean, Ryan Lindgren had to go. I think everybody agreed it. We all agreed about that on this show. And who does he wind up going out and getting after that? Is Carson Soucy, who is just a taller and worse hockey player than Ryan Lindgren. But the only reason that Drury likes him is because of height. If you have no skill, but happen to be 6'4" or taller, this guy is going to call you up and want you to play for him. And that to me is not it's not an NHL caliber GM. Look
Pat
at
Maroon,
Carolina,
welcome to the Rangers.
I mean, if he wants to come out of retirement, he will have a first line role with the New York Rangers next year. It's a sad truth about how this team is run. Every other organization in the NHL that has success prioritizes skill, speed, and fit. Those are the 3 aspects that they're all looking for. You look at the guys. Look at Carolina, right? Carolina is the perfect example. I know they haven't won anything, and every time they play the Rangers in the playoffs, they lose. So I'm not asking them to mimic that per se. But this team traded away Marty Necas for Mikko Rantanen. Mikko Rantanen didn't want to sign there, so they traded him away. And the only real piece they wound up getting back in that trade that's current on this roster is Logan Stankoven, who's a good young player. But you're telling me that they basically downgraded from Marty Necas and Mikko Rantanen to Logan Stankoven and got better. Why? Because they have players that play a certain style. Their coach is going to push that style, and they have a fit. That's as simple as it is. Laviolette asking this team to play man-to-man is like asking a blind man to read you a story. It just won't happen. It doesn't make sense. So there's certain aspects about this team that could work under a different coach. But unfortunately, they could have made that change in the end of November, December timeframe and actually given themselves a little bit of a runway to correct it. And instead of doing that, they started to just completely fold from within. And it was pathetic to watch throughout the course of the year. And like you said, now that we've kind of gotten that anger out from the beginning, from the middle of the season and the beginning of the stretch to now, it's not even upset. It's just like, the hell happened, man? I'm so ready to turn the page after they get trampled next Thursday by the Lightning. And it would be ultra fitting if they're eliminated officially tonight at the hands of the Islanders, who, by the way, the Rangers have beaten every time they played them this season. So it's fitting now that in this middle of this stretch where it seems like they're just coasting towards the end, I don't even think we see them win a game the rest of this year.
Most likely not. I mean, the schedule is brutal. I mean, outside of the Islanders, you then play Carolina, Florida, and Tampa again.
Yep.
I mean, there's not a win on this board. I'm still sort of at a loss, but you know, when you talk about the team that they have and the system that they play, you're right. You're 100% right. There are some guys in here that are savable, and it would have been done if the coach was moved in November. How many times, and I know it's recency bias thinking about last year with Edmonton, but how many times have you seen a team make a move with a head coach after a bad start to the year and they turn around and make a run in the postseason? I mean, you go back to at least, I mean, the two off the top of my head are the St. Louis Blues in 2019 and Edmonton last year. I mean, those are two teams.
Do it again this year, or am I just?
And the Blues might do it again this year. But that's the point, is like, those are teams that it might not be, which is crazy to me when you say that, like, Drury is this, you know, mean, just hammer down guy when making moves, but refuse to move the coach, refuse to fire the coach this year. He'll do it with the players, but refuse to do it with the coach. I'm not saying it would have saved the season, not at all. You have the guys that are on this team, and you saw that they weren't happy with the general manager this time, so this is why they quit. But there are so many instances of teams moving the head coach during the season and succeeding, and the fact that Drury was not willing to do that was upsetting, because it was not clicking. The message was not going down to the players, whether they wanted to get the message or not. It was not reaching them. And now we sit here on April 10th, basically out of the playoffs. They are out of the playoffs, but basically the season ends tonight. And it just leads to us sitting here and wondering what if, and you know, what's next, because it's a very unclear road for this franchise as to what happens next. And, you know, you can go back and listen to our first episode this year and hear about how positive I said there's no reason they shouldn't have won this division this year. That is a thing that I said on this show to the public this year. And boy, do I look stupid now. And we all look stupid because nobody thought this was going to happen. But, you know, it's going to start with getting the right guys in come the offseason. Do I trust Chris Drury to do that? Absolutely not. And unfortunately, it looks like he's going to be the guy that's going to be tasked with doing so for the fourth head coach in his tenure. And we're going to sit here and most likely be wondering again next year what the hell's going on.
Yeah, I don't even have faith that they're going to fire Laviolette until I see it at this point. If you're going to give Chris Drury the opportunity to be here next year, it's almost like, what's the difference between having Laviolette brought back? Because I don't have faith that he's going to construct a roster that's going to work. And it just continues to add fuel to the fire. And until Glenn Sather is officially no longer part of this organization, until Chris Drury's gone, until they've cleaned out this core, we're going to be watching the same kind of crap, because it's not a talent issue anymore. It's not a hiring issue. They've recycled coaches. It's just they have not found the fit at all three levels that other organizations that have success have. I mean, Tampa Bay, I know I put this out there on X and it kind of took off with the amount of people that were posting and replying to it. But when the Rangers lost to them in the conference final, Cooper was like, this is going to be a good team. And they have a good head coach here in Gallant. Gallant was gone the next year and replaced by Laviolette. This team is now missing the playoffs after winning a President's Trophy, and Tampa just continues to turn out good year after good year. Their GM continues to find right pieces. They moved on from Mikhail Sergachev. Everybody was like, what the hell are you doing? And they just keep getting rid of people and bringing in good fits. They brought back Ryan McDonough, who's a former Ranger that the Rangers should have never let go because he was a shutdown defenseman that they could desperately use in every single one of their last playoff runs. It just, how many moves can they make to bite themselves in the ass? And it just continues to happen. And we have this comment here, do you think JT Miller got sucked into the funk of this team? I have not been impressed at all by JT Miller's play. I know the points are still there. I know he's a point per game player with the Rangers since they got him, but you could see why they were kind of ticked off with him in Vancouver. It's just when he scores, he's noticeable. Outside of that, really doesn't do too much. He kind of goes through the motions on the ice, and he has periods and he has games where he's physical and he does everything. In the first 5-6 games with the Rangers, kind of like the Rangers season, right? He was really noticeable, involved in everything. After that, not so much. He's not going anywhere, or else they would not have made that trade if they were just planning on moving him again. But to me, you got to find a way to get a 1C. You got to find a way to get a right wing on the top line. You got to find a way to get a couple of wingers in the second and third line spots. It's just, there's too many holes to fill in one offseason, but they're going to try to do it because that's the anatomy of the New York Rangers. Is you got to spend money to be good. We don't have to draft or develop. And since I said the word develop, we could talk about it. I don't think the Rangers have a development issue. I think the Rangers have a utilization issue. Brendan Othman's most common line mate's Matt Rempe. Gabe Perreault is getting scratched in a lost season against the Philadelphia Flyers, who would have been the first team that he would have faced in the NHL that's not a playoff opponent. But in that game, you decide to scratch him. And I'm not sitting here advocating that Brett Berard should be scratched. I'm sitting here advocating that Brett Berard should be in the lineup alongside Brendan Othman and Gabe Perreault, and that one of these veterans should come out, because at this point, that's what this season has to be about. The last 4 games have to be about developing these kids so that you do not have a continued pipeline of failed prospects. And if you're not going to commit to that, well, trade Brendan Othman, get him off the team. Trade Brett Berard, who's going to be a good NHL player, because get rid of him, get some assets back. At this point, if you're not going to use them properly, get rid of them. It's the same story every single time. Capo Caco, is he going to be and live up to the number 2 overall pick spot? Absolutely not. But is he a better forward than we saw when he was with the Rangers? Yes, because he's going to be utilized properly elsewhere. Same thing with Alexis Lafreniere. Is he going to be the number 1 overall pick that the Rangers desperately needed? No, he's not going to live up to the top number 1 overall pick spots. Is he better than a 50, 60-point guy in the right spot on the right team? Possibly. And I think that his down year is a byproduct of who's around him. When you look at your right shoulder and you see veterans kind of just going by the motions, and you look at your coach on the left shoulder and he doesn't give a crap or is not willing to punish those guys, but your ice time's limited every time. Why am I going to try? And I think this is all a byproduct of the environment and the culture that this team has created. So to me, unless you get rid of the coach and the GM and just completely clean the top of the organization, doesn't really matter who you bring in, because the culture is going to be the same.
Yeah, great move by Laviolette, scratching Perreault. Otherwise, they maybe would have given up 10 instead of 8. Seeing that yesterday, and I tweeted as soon as he signed. As soon as he signed Perreault, I tweeted that first lineup of Carrick, Rempe, and Perreault is going to send me into the loony bin. 2 games in, he's playing with Kreider and Carrick, and 3 games in, he's scratched. How are you supposed to develop a guy? You're out of the playoffs. You're done. The season's over. You're not playing for anything. How are you supposed to develop talent when they are consistently playing with talentless players? It makes no sense. The fact that Gabe Perreault is scratched, and I'm not saying Brett Berard, like you said, needed to be scratched as well, but the fact that you sat there without laughing in everybody's face and said he needs to sit in the press box, he needs to learn, he needs to see from high above, and you sit out there and you play the same top 6 guys every single night without ever thinking about maybe letting them sit for one and having them watch in the press box and fully understand what the goal of this team was. This should have happened back in February, but now it's coming full circle to talking about your number 1 prospect that, like you said, is getting sat against a non-playoff team. How How and why?
It makes no sense, man.
Because
It makes no sense.
This has nothing to do with this specific season. This like anger that I feel
year after year.
Yes, this is built up over years and years, and seeing the final product of these guys that they bring up and play with nobodies, just to never learn from your mistakes. It's literally like trying to put a square peg into a round hole. And they continue to keep doing it with every prospect they bring up, and every single one of their prospects fail. I can't. Nobody could be able to rationalize that move last night. And I saw Rick Carpinello, who's very I don't want to say anti-fan, but he's he's an interesting character. Even he was like, I don't like fans getting mad at one particular move, this and that, but what the hell is going on with this? Like, you're confusing those people. I cannot. Laviolette's gone, should be.
Yep.
But it's not going to fix the development, because this is just the philosophy of this organization for some reason, and it's just going to end up, for Gabe Perreault's sake, he needs to find his way out of this organization, because it's not going to go well for him. Ryan Leonard is playing, top 6 minutes on a team that's going to win the President's Trophy and compete for a Stanley Cup this year. So why isn't Gabe Perreault getting that same treatment on a team that's going nowhere and only has like the prospects to look forward to? Like, why is that so difficult?
Well, they're not going to win the President's Trophy anymore, thankfully, but they're a top team in the Eastern Conference. It's just laughable, man. It's been laughable for so long at how they've kind of gone about their lineup decisions. And, we could date back to the good years too, right? I mean, the first run to the Eastern Conference Final, when they started restructuring their lines and they actually found fits at the deadline. That's what we need more of, right? When you're looking at good teams and how they're built, it doesn't have to be the top name free agent or the top name trade deadline acquisition. It's got to be the right fit. And this year, they haven't found any fit at all. And I think that when you look at next year's group, right, Adam Edstrom getting hurt this year really hurt this team. He was coming into his own. The line with him, Carrick, and Rempe was arguably their best line on a night in, night out basis. Rempe was finally playing in the straight line game. He wasn't taking penalties because he didn't need to go crazy hitting everybody, because he had another guy that was 6'7" that could actually move on the other side. And Carrick was doing his job in the middle. As soon as Adam Edstrom went down, Carrick all of a sudden became the third line center out of nowhere. It became this whole trickle down thing that led to trades, led to line combinations. And Sam Carrick has not even been on the fourth line since. It's so weird where the lineup tinkering happens with them. And the perfect example for me, especially with the young kids, is in the current situation of the Rangers power play, right? They're 3 for their last 46. They haven't looked good at all. They've given up more goals shorthanded to the opposition than they have scored themselves on the power play over that stretch. The main reason that their power play struggles is because when the puck gets cleared down the ice, Adam Fox brings it up and drops it back to Artemi Panarin, which is fine. Almost every team in the NHL does this type of swing breakout. But they have the other 3 guys, which right now are Trocheck, JT Miller, and Mika Zibanejad, park themselves at the blue line on either wing and are flat-footed. So now the only option that Artemi Panarin has is to move it to a guy that's flat-footed that's going to get the puck stripped, or to try to go through 4 guys and get into the zone himself. And that's why you're seeing all these odd man rushes the other way, because there's no options. If one guy in Panarin is swinging to get the puck, the other forwards have to be swinging around him so that he could have options with speed. It is such common knowledge that you are taught this at 8 years old when you're playing travel hockey. It is the easiest thing to learn, is that you cannot be stagnant and standing still on the ice. But the Rangers power play has become an absolute stagnant unit. Even when they win the faceoff and set up in the zone, there's no movement, no weaving up the top. It is just, let's try to get one simple wrist shot to the net, or let's try to force feed a cross ice pass. And it doesn't work anymore. Everybody knows what they're trying to do. So you have Gabe Perreault, right, who ran a phenomenal power play at Boston College. You have Brennan Othman, who the majority of his points came on the power play in Hartford. You have Brett Berard, who will hound every single puck that you dump into a corner. He is a complete motor, or he's like the Energizer Bunny. He does not stop moving. You have Johnny Brodzinski, who at this point is the only guy on this Rangers roster that will willingly shoot the puck from any angle, and we saw it work in a goal last night. Those should be your 4 forwards, right? And then you could put whoever you want at the point. You leave Adam Fox, see what but there is no reason that should not be a group right now on the power play. What do you have to lose? They're not going to score? Well, I hate to break it to you, but the guys that you're paying $25 million to up front combined have not scored a damn goal over the last however many games, and 3 over the last 46. And by the way, if that power play clicks at even 17% over this stretch, they're in the playoffs. It is that simple.
Yep. Over the last 21 games, they are 4 for 58. That is 7%, 6.8% if you don't want to round up. 6.8% on the power play over 21 games, which is
so bad.
A fourth of the season. I'm not great at math, but a fourth of the season your power play is running at 7% is just unusable. Again, this goes back to like the whole confused like mindset of just everybody around this organization and fans included. How do you go from a power play that was automatic a year ago to 7% for a full quarter of the season? Where's the answers in that? Obviously it is nobody moves, nobody gets to the front of the net, nobody hunts down pucks, nobody cares. That's the easy answer for explaining this. But I mean, that's otherworldly. Like how many teams go that long? And maybe you go to like the Pittsburgh Penguins 2 years ago. Remember when they were on that really bad stretch?
Yep.
Like no team that has this type of stretch of power play woes is ever good. And
they don't make the playoffs. That's why the whole power play merchant thing always was like, okay, cool. But they're good on the power play. You need that. Look at the teams in the playoffs right now. How many of them are below 20th in the league? It doesn't happen. You need to convert those goals. In these games, the NHL, right? The Rangers have played teams that are really good and in the midst of some of their worst stretches, and it's been a 1 or 2 goal game. And the difference in those games are the power play. This is the best league in the world for hockey. You do not win games throughout the course of the year unless you have good special teams. And the other flip side of this coin is that the Rangers penalty kill was second in the league, and now it's 12th because it's just been demoralizing.
They've been awful recently.
Because they're searching for shorthanded goals. They know they're not scoring on the power play. They know their 5-on-5 numbers, although they're actually not that terrible this year, they're not scoring enough. So they're taking risks, and they're just getting exposed. It's a trickle-down effect. And you can look at every facet of the game, right? You give up a goal, you lose because it's a trickle down. Okay, we're not going to win this game. We can't come back. You go up a goal and then you have a bad power play, and 2 seconds later the other team ties it up. Trickle down. We can't score on the power play. It just, you could see it in every single situation. And to me, it's just at some point, and during that beginning stretch where they were looking like crap, it should have just been a schematic change, right? It should have just been, okay, the man-to-man's not working. We got to switch that up in the defensive zone. All right, the power play is not clicking the same way. Let's go to a simple overload on one side, and once we start to get some goals and confidence, we can go back to that umbrella setup. All right, our breakout's not working right now. Let's chip the puck up the wall, go high off the glass. Let's get in on a forecheck. Like, it's just simple structural changes that you can make that are ever so slight but can give people confidence because you don't have to have that, extra second that you have to make the right play. Just keep it simple. They don't do that.
The penalty kill over the last 15 or 14 games is 69%, by the way.
Yeah, they're getting exposed because it's so simple to beat them right now. The 2 guys up top are going to gamble for that puck. And it's worked. I mean, they scored 16 shorthanded goals this year. But they know that right now, if we can get that puck to the half wall, the defenseman can't cover the front of the net. We saw it last night. Carson Soucy let a pass go through his legs, and he was covering air. Braden Schneider didn't cover the back door on the tap-in. What about the power play goal that Braden Point scored the other day for when Tampa beat the Rangers? He had 2 guys on him, and Braden Point, who's an undersized player, was stronger on a stick than 2 guys. That stuff just can't happen. Good teams do not let that happen.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it a lot, and I've said my piece all season. I've sort of ran out of things to say. Just it's a bad team doing bad things all season long. Team that doesn't care, a GM that's unwilling to move off the coach, and a coach that's unwilling to change. And this is the result that you get. And you've got 4 more games of this. And I've said it on Twitter a couple of times. You got 4 more games of this circus, 4 more games of the circus, and everybody can forget about it for the next couple of months until September rolls around, or not September, July 1st rolls around. And listen, this team hasn't had a long offseason since 2021. So,
They're going to use it. It's going to be beneficial. And honestly, the offseason is going to be more entertaining than the regular
oh
season
my
next
God,
year.
yeah, easily.
We're going to be on the edge of our seats. And if nothing happens, I don't know how people show up next year. I know I won't be buying tickets, but this is not a team where they're quiet in off seasons very often. So
Yeah, if this is the offseason, they decide to stay pat and be quiet, then
exactly.
you will see me sprinting into Madison Square Garden with a fire. Was it sell the team sign? Just to sell the team sign. I would not. If this is the line in the sand that they draw and say no, we're not spending money, we're not making wholesale changes, then check me into the loony bin, because I will go nuts if that happens.
Yeah, and change is needed, and I don't see this team sitting still. I think it's been too bad for too long, and the PR around it is just so ridiculous. I mean,
the whole season's a joke. From like from when you talk about PR, from literally the communications person, like
the social
on
media
down.
tean can't
The
be
social
around
media
them
team.
anymore.
This whole season has been just
A
a
comedy of
mess.
errors.
I
It's so
mean,
bad. And if you think that these people, like the front office execs, team staff, that they're not looking at social media. I mean, I've had people when I was writing articles for blogs be like, "Oh, you got to be careful. They're looking at it." So there's people that are listening to, looking at everything, and the fan base was outraged with Barclay Goodrow's contract. He gets moved. Right, the fan base is outraged with Jacob Trouba. He gets moved. They're outraged with Ryan Lindgren. He gets moved. And I'm not saying that the fan base is the one that's making these moves, but there's certainly something to be said for the players that wind up getting moved and what the fan reaction is to them on social media, the beat writers' reactions to them while they're writing articles, talk shows, all of that. If there's enough negative out there about these guys, there's a little bit of pressure to move them. And it's why it's kind of been weird to me that there hasn't been more tinkering with the lineup, especially late. Like when you're in December and Mika Zibanejad's struggling, I can understand you don't scratch him, right? The guy's been good for a long time. He's got a track record of it. He's usually a good two-way forward. Okay, we'll give him a little bit longer of a leash. He's kind of earned that throughout the course of his career. But when you're sitting here at the end of the season and there's really nothing left to play for, it's been a lost season for him. I mean, he had 4 points in that game against the Flyers last night, but really the only thing that stuck out to me were the miscues that he had, because they either led to goals or led to catastrophic plays on power plays, which has been the theme of his year. They give him a night off. I mean, it doesn't – at this point, right, especially if they get eliminated tonight, what harm is there in saying, listen, we've all struggled this year. We want to see what these kids have. Take a couple of the veterans out and let these guys play. And then you could have your conversations once the season ends with them about what the future plans are, if they're in that fold or not, and have those discussions with them before it gets leaked to the media, please. And that's when you do it. But right now, there is nothing about this group, nothing about the season that is dictating any need for a veteran player to be playing over the younger kids. Like, this is the perfect time to let these Offmans and Berards and Perreaults just play freely. Give them 22 minutes. Let them play on special teams and be like, if you make mistakes, it's all good, right? We have nothing to play for. This is the perfect, and they have not had this. They drafted Kakko, they drafted Lafreniere, and those guys went right into the mix of a group that was already signed with free agents and meant to contend at that point. They didn't have the freedom to make mistakes. These kids right now have a small sample size to do just that. And one of those games got wasted for Gabe Perreault because Laviolette decided that was the game to scratch.
Yeah, if you don't think that the Rangers organization and MSG as a whole is listening, I can tell you firsthand they are. When I did the Sabres game, the Sabres-Rangers game earlier this year, I was told I'm not allowed anywhere near the Rangers. I had to stick with Buffalo, had to stay around the Sabres, could not be around the Rangers. I was not told exactly why, but I can hypothesize as to why that would be the case.
I've been told the same thing. Yep.
Why I was singled out in that regard. But it's this season from what I've heard from people was sort of doomed from the start, and maybe we didn't see it. It sounded like it was very obvious from the start. There was a huge disconnect. But we never saw it going like this. We never saw it going as bad as it did. Sure, would they not have won the President's Trophy for a second year in a row? Probably not. Definitely not. But there's a difference between having a disconnect between the players and everybody else, and the coach and the GM and the media and the fans. And then there's a whole nother side of that where that then bleeds into the way you play on the ice. The way you feel about certain people should not then dictate how you play on the ice. And it bled over into everything this year. So for me, we're 40 minutes into this. I think I've said my piece. I don't really know what else we can get into. They play tonight. It could be the final actually meaningful, in air quotes, game of the season that actually, doesn't have them already eliminated. But I'm done. I'm done with them for now.
Yeah, it's high school hockey stuff, right? In high school hockey, if you're with your boys and the coach is belittling people, then you could rally around that and be like, yeah, we're not going to play for this guy. When you're professional athletes making millions of dollars, and it's not just a coach that you're playing for, but you got 18,000 people in the arena every night. The New York Rangers have a fan base. I mean, even road games right now, it's at least 50%, if not more, Rangers fans. Like that's who you play for. So the fact that it's trickled on like that, and that you can see the deterioration in terms of the effort level, the willingness to battle, the emotions, right? I mean, they've scored goals and there's no celebration. And then I saw a video the other day on my timeline of the Trocheck goal in overtime, or double overtime. They get the whole team looking at the crowd. It's like, where is any of that emotion? Now, I'm not expecting the whole team to jump over the bench when he scores a shorthanded goal in the first period, but let's have a celly. This is not business as usual, right? We need some type of emotion if you're going to get back in a race. And it was a little late for that last night, but at any point over the stretch, man, and that's the most mind-boggling part to me, and where I'll leave it, is that when you look at the top six and the amount of guys they have over 30 years old that have been through different situations like this, like Trocheck was on bad Florida Panthers teams. Kreider was with the Rangers when they were up and down. He went through had the playoff runs. Then they were in a lull with the rebuild. He's been through all of that. Zibanejad's been through up and downs with Ottawa, with the Rangers. Panarin's been on bad teams before. How have those guys not looked and been like, we don't want to be on those bad teams anymore? That's why we're here and why we're playing. To me, it's been crazy. And Mike Rupp said it best. All they had to do was play a little bit of defense this year and give Shesterkin the chance to not face as many high danger shots. They would have been fine. All they had to do was go 22% on the power play this year. They would have been fine. It's really that easy for this team to make the playoffs. You go at 22% on the power play and you don't give up 7 to 10 high danger chances a game, you're in. It doesn't have to be the 1 seed. It could be any seed, but you're in. And to not be able to just come close to that, to not win 3 in a row after November is just mind-boggling. Mind-boggling.
Yep. Half the league makes the postseason. Half the league. You don't even, like you said, you don't got to be 1. You have to be half of the league to make the playoffs.
It's just crazy.
And they were unable to do so this year. Now we sit here about an hour away from the official end, or at least the beginning of the official end to the season, when the Rangers play the New York Islanders, and then it's Carolina, Tampa, or Carolina, Florida, Tampa. So
yep, they end with Tampa. So 1 week from today, we'll do our final episode before the last game of the season. Can't imagine we'll be talking about a win. And despite everything that I've said, and despite how much I have, or how little belief I have in this team, it still would be nice to beat the Islanders. So I mean, I'll be watching. I don't root for them to lose, so I would like to see them win. And you can kind of do what the Islanders could do to you if they beat you, is eliminate you. You can kind of do the same thing to them. I know they have an extra game, so mathematically it doesn't work that way, but you put them on the brink the same way the Rangers have 1 point between them and elimination. If they beat the Islanders in regulation tonight, they'd have the same thing. So I don't know. If you're not going to make it, take them down with you.
Yep, I think the Islanders will do it themselves. I don't think.
I don't think the Islanders have a chance either. But it's just, you can't get eliminated by them. And
you can't, or you shouldn't. But this team hits new lows every night.
I didn't think I would ever see a season where I was more disappointed than I was when they lost in game 82 against the Philadelphia Flyers in a shootout to get eliminated from postseason contention. That one hurt, but that team was fighting until the very end. This one hurts for a completely different reason. It's
This team died in February. This team has been dead
after they went 8-1-1 in January.
Yep. They watched them. They saw them go 8-1-1 in January and then just quit again.
Flipped the script completely after that Christmas break. Came out like gangbusters. Went all the way up to that Four Nations break in a position to make the postseason after they were completely deteriorated before that, and then it's just never found the ability to kind of get back to that level. So it's a tragic season in regards to what the expectations were and what this roster should have been able to do. And it's a lost season because it's another year removed from, some of these players' primes. And the fact that we're sitting here talking crap about Shesterkin and Fox, well, we're not doing it, but the fact that there are people doing it,
unintelligent people,
it's just that's how bad it's been. These guys can't look good when, Shesterkin can't look good when he's facing the amount of shots he's facing. Fox can't look good when he's coming back from an injury and he's being paired with Carson Soucy. It's just, come on. We got to get real here. If you're going to sit here and chirp Soucy, you can't be like, oh, well, I expect Fox to do so much more. Yeah, well, he's playing with an anchor.
He's with an anchor for 2 years now.
For his whole career.
Yeah.
Really, you got to put him with somebody else. And again, another opportunity, put Keandre Miller with him over the last 2 months, but no, they can't do that. Whatever. I can't talk about it anymore. I know you're gassed out of it as well. Do you even want to give a prediction tonight? Or
0-4. 0-4. 0-3 to our next show, and I'll go 0-1 next week. So 0-4. Okay. By the way, that would end up with them losing the final 8 games of the year. So seems like no better way to end this. Just
sneak into the top 5. Sneak into the top 5 of the draft. Then
if you sneak into the top 5 of the draft, keep the pick. If you don't,
you have to. Yeah. There's no guarantee you're ever going to.
What's the deadline? Well, again,
they have 48 hours before the draft to.
Oh, so they'll know their position.
Yeah, so you'll know based on standings at this point. You'll know your lottery percentage. I don't know, if they could see the lottery and then do it, but I believe it's 48 hours till the draft. So if you're in the top 5, there's no way you can give that up. I just can't. I know how good next year's draft is, at least on paper. We've seen on paper picks with the Rangers before, aka their number 1 overall pick.
AKA all of them.
It means nothing to me, right? Take a player in the top 5 and hope they pan out, because the ones that you've taken that are consensus picks have not. So if you're in the top 5, take it. But whatever, that's a story that we'll be saving for our summer editions.
That's the off-season show.
For now, we just all get to dwell in the misery of what is the New York Rangers. So
4 more. 4 more, and that's all I'm thinking about.
4 more. Then we get to drift off into the offseason. Then we actually get to watch good hockey.
There you go. You get to watch actual teams.
That's the positive. You get to watch playoff hockey and not have the stress of worrying about what the Rangers will do.
Nope.
So we will see you all next week for the final regular season episode. It's been fun to talk about it. Not been fun to watch. But until then, hopefully they beat the Islanders tonight. If they don't, you know where to find us next week to complain. We'll see you.
See you guys.